discover different cultures, how they approach like a marriage and where women stand. So I constantly kind of compare my situation and what kind of my peers think and what the Indian women, young women think. So, and I was interested in it when I came back. I'm not going to show you that. If you really want to see it, just go on my website. And when I came back after India, I started to think actually I started kind of dig more in a kind of Russian, like different kind of Russian women's or like former Soviet Union, I would rather say that, situations. And because I'm like from Soviet Union and I moved there 7 years living in UK, so I'm living now in a Western culture which used to be kind of in the past for us like a dream. It's like including American dream, which we always had like from Hollywood movies. So I've been put myself in a kind of in a culture which in my childhood was a dream culture. And that's what I think my clashes started to grow up, and a lot of questions I start to have. What exactly, who is right? It's like we are right, who is wrong? So, and obviously more deeper I go, more I realize there is no black and white, there is always grays and a lot of tone of grays. So one project I've done, I called it Interviewers. So besides taking photographs, I'm using the found images. So, and it's quite new for me. It's like last 2 years I've been working a lot with found images. So this is, I found the collection online, amateur, like vernacular photographs, lots of the Russian women probably taking photographs by their men, I don't know, their girlfriends, themselves. But they're all in a very kind of typical for me, I can relate to that, the domestic environments, and most of them is kind of sexually posing, half naked, and most of the poses, what I found interesting, you straight away can recognize them because they're all over mass media magazines, which the culture of kind of magazines and the posings, I would say, came from kind of Western world. And after 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, it's literally kind of like came as a wave to all our countries, and we start to kind of really apply all these patterns in daily life or like in the magazines. So what I've done, I kind of really feel there to besides like being posing themselves, they still kind of pose themselves as a sort of an object rather than a personality. So it's more important their nakedness, that their bodies rather than who they are, what they do. So it's kind of for me like they belong to that domestic interior, domestic role in a way, women, which still very strong in the former Soviet Union territories. So I kind of digitally manipulated. I borrowed part of their domestic interiors, like wallpapers or curtains or something, and I just covered the part of the bodies which been clearly can see what is going on there. So it's about 20 of them I have, and sometimes I show them in small frames, like the home frames. I go to lots of like flea markets, or soon I'm going to show quite big, them things very big on the street, which is kind of very interesting. So probably it's because again it's kind of me being in UK. I get a lot of kind of responses about when people ask me I'm Russian. There's a lot of stereotypes about Russian women, so I like to play with stereotypes, and I like kind of to question them and clash them in a way. So I started to research on the Russian rights websites, and I was shocked like how many of them. It's like about 1,000 websites just purely for the Russian-speaking, let's say, like Ukrainian Russian-speaking women who try to find Western husband. Western husband, if we mean, it's U.S., mostly U.S., Great Britain, Germany. So it's like 3 major countries, and plus obviously the others as well. And I found a lot of interesting information, so I've done a few projects about the Russian brides. One of them calls Birth Trees of Russia. So who just a bit familiar with Russian culture or whoever once visited Russia, so you straight away can recognize that the birth trees is like a huge symbol of Russia. It's very deeply rooted, and it's a lot of kind of really practicality what been done from the tree, from the wood of the tree, because it's really good quality wood. But it's at the same time it's like a picture. You always have a lot of paintings and visual images. Like with the birch trees, it's most probably is going to be kind of Russian landscape or whatever stories behind the paintings. And what I found the most fascinating, because I went through like thousands of images on the website. Almost every woman has at least one image with a birch tree. It's kind of, I'm Russian, hey hurrah. So it's kind of confirmed their Russianness. And obviously, tree is very phallic symbol, and it's been used a lot in art and everywhere. And how they pose that, it's kind of, I found really fascinating. So this is the real images which I didn't took, I found again. That's why I closed their eyes, it's kind of part of protection of their identity. So I made a selection, I started to think what I can do with that, and again, if I'm playing with stereotypes, I have to play like maximum with it. So I found one really pop song. It's kind of very song which you can hear in like every second cheap bar, or even taxi drivers can hear that. Kind of that very song people straight away recognize, and it's easy catch the melody. And it's a male, Eugene Ross. He sings a male voice. He sings about birch trees, because birch trees quite often in the fairy tales they associate with the women. So he sings about them, that he is leaving his father's land, and he knows that this women, birch trees, is going to wait for him when he comes back. So I thought this is perfect. My women, my selection of the pictures, they want to leave. That's why they're next to that tree. He sings opposite. So I put them together, and I made, it's kind of 3 minutes video, it's just a slideshow with a bit of more information about Russian brides. I'm not going to play with that now, but it's on my website, so if you go, you can, full length, you can hear that. But pretty much story knows what is going on. But yeah, melody is quite important as well. So digging a lot of materials about Russian brides, I couldn't just finish with that. So I decided to continue doing more projects. I think one of the key projects I've done, and I called it Unusual Woman, because I borrowed that phrase from many of their profiles. It's kind of, as you can understand, it's broken English. It kind of sounds weird, but that's what they try to say. They say kind of, I'm normal, I'm not like, yeah. What I've done, because I found a lot of websites. The websites is quite interesting. They are like, they have totally different information in Russian and English. And Russian, they obviously aiming for women, English for men. And in the Russian parts, I found a lot of, they have a kind of description how you should be photographed to get the best match making, and what you should do, instructions, whole big instructions. And some websites have even the samples. This is the best samples how you should do that. So I collected them again a lot, and I made selection, and I thought, okay, what can I do? So basically, I'm interested in, as I playing with stereotype, I'm interested in how the cultures clashes, and maybe in a way, what is the fantasies women have, what do the men fantasies have about these women. So it's kind of the idea that most of the women, obviously, they dream to find the true love and find the home and be happy, probably more relaxed than they live now in Russia. But what the men mostly kind of try to find, obviously they try to find with whom have sex regularly, and who can cook. That's kind of the basic domestic roles. And very rare kind of, you can see that they clearly state that they would like next to like personality, or it happens, then the personality next to them. What I've done, it's a quilt. You in America should know very well. It's really very nicely developed in here, the tradition. And I found this one, actually, it's more in America and more in the US. I shouldn't say America, sorry. More in the US, and it's in Britain as well. It's all traditional pattern which calls double wedding rings. And it's always been done by usually female relatives of bride as a gift. They stitch that quilt as a gift for the wedding artist. So obviously I used it with her. So I printed the whole selection of these best samples, how you should be photographed. I printed them on a fabric. So, and we created that quilt with my mom, which is kind of became again more playful irony in a way, because my mom is my relative, so she kind of should have done that quilt. And another story of that actually. Okay, I'm going to tell that. When my mom posted it to me, because obviously she lives in Estonia, she included a note and she said, I was dreaming to make that pattern for your wedding, but at least I've done it for your art. So yeah, and after that I feel like, okay, I play enough with stereotypes, so I really need to find the real stories. And it was really hard to find anyone. Most of the women, they were just like ignoring, never responded and anything. So, but still I was quite lucky. I found one woman, she's amazing, she's totally open, she totally was like her honest story. She shared it with me, she allowed me to use that story for the artwork, just with promise that I protect her identity. So that gets kind of a bit more complicated. I couldn't use like any photographs I took of her, her husband, or anything. So, and I really wanted to apply more kind of traditional crafts as a quilt or something, which is really still really associates with the women, which is probably at the moment not true, because a lot of men do that as well. So, but I felt like, okay, I can play with that. So. I created quite big size embroidery piece, and it's cross-stitched. I made it myself, 6 months. Oh my God. So cross-stitch, why I choose that? Because first of all, I found it's like really unique. It goes across many cultures. It's very recognizable by many countries as a style of embroidery. And plus, the cross is like very associated to me with the pixels, and that's why I work kind of with the pixels, like digital actually websites. So I made. So what I've done before even the embroidery, I interviewed that woman a few times, and I compiled all her story, made it short, and I re-recorded with another Russian woman the story, which is like the sound piece is like 13 minutes length. Unfortunately, on my website you can hear 3 minutes of it, but I cannot put it all, just protect her, because if your husband will hear that, I'm in a big trouble, she's in a big trouble. So she's married now to English man. So I'm showing it in the art spaces. I'm willing kind of, and I did show that, but put myself in a bit risk, but yeah, it's fine. I know he's not really into art. So that's my hope. Anyway, so I really wanted the sound piece have a visual image, and in her story, when I asked her how you select this man, because she's a very beautiful woman, I was like, probably many men approach you straight away on this website. So she said, I saw a man next to the house and car, and that's all I need. So I borrowed that picture. It's actually, I took the picture of her in front of her house and car, but I replaced her figure with very random silhouette, which I found in Google, average age, average man. So that's him. And that's what I thought kind of I'm going to do. Speaking of that, of this her phrase, I would not say that's her purpose or the kind of material interest. Yeah, and it's actually more complicated. And when if you get a chance kind of to listen a bit and maybe at some day belong, you can understand it's actually more about the relationship, and it's a very complex story. And I think her complexity, how hard was for her to do that, and my complexity, how hard for me was to do the embroidery, it kind of like really related in a way. Yeah, just skip that. So this project, it kind of comes to logical continuation because I really wanted to go back to my photography. I really was kind of want to continue taking pictures. And I found this, like, I'm surrounded by such amazing women, and I think that UK gave me amazing luck of meeting the women across even like from Russia, because some of these women from Russia or like former Soviet republics. And I really feel like they are kind of a generation which probably acetate. We try to make kind of a statement, or I don't know, they try to make statement. They try to do something slightly different, and all of them immigrated from their countries, whatever their country is, not because of the marriage, because they wanted to get married like the Western dream man. But because they wanted to achieve something in their lives, or they were interested, they followed their passions, all kind of different reasons. And I really want to document them. I really want to kind of make portraits of them. And most of the cases, it's in a way collaboration with each of them. It's not like I really directed each of them, but I try to make the portraits in their environments, because I think environment is very important, and especially some of them is like in their studios as they are artists or whatever they writers. So yeah, it's probably because this project is so fresh for me, I can't really say much about it. So I'm kind of I'm just probably gonna stop here. And the only title I want to say, I referred, obviously, the Joe's book, and I found this, like, he wrote it about 100 years ago. I think it's about time kind of to think about what exactly means young, what exactly like representation of young artists as women and men. So it kind of related to me, and to these words which his main character says. Yeah, thank you. That's it.